But we're going straight back into the calls. I can see the chat on talkSPORT's YouTube channel. They're still talking about Manchester United's ownership. We've got Nug, who's a Manchester United fan, wants to talk about the takeover. Where do you sit on this, Nug? Are you pro Qatar or Sajim or any other option?
Very pro Qatar. The thing I wanted to say is that, every time Qatar's mentioned, right, there's a small paragraph that comes in about violations, human rights violations. It's not like any country in the world, right, has a clean record. And nobody's perfect. Even England itself has, slavery and colonization and stuff like that in its history. Nobody's perfect. And everybody's, the World Cup was great, I thought. I thought it went off without a hitch, personally. So I'm very pro-Qatar. I'm just sick of hearing about every time it's mentioned that there's human rights violations, this, that, and the other. The man has said himself that the money raised, any profit, will go straight back into the club. They're not doing it for a profit. They're looking to build a new stadium. They're going to make it debt-free. I mean, what else can we want? After years of them taking money out of the club, we're finally going to have owners that actually want the club to succeed, and they're not looking to take profit out of the club.
Yeah, I'm just going back to their statement from last night, Nug, and I think, look, state ownership is probably a different conversation as to whether people want that in relation to what you've quite rightly raised as well. But you look at it, we'll build a new stadium, we'll invest in the area, we'll invest in the team, we'll invest in the infrastructure, we'll clear the debt, and we don't want to take any money from the club. I mean, that's almost the dream scenario for any Manchester United fan. But I think some fans, they want Sajim because he's, a born and bred Manchester United fan and wants to put the Manchester back in Manchester United. But, I mean, I suppose the question is state ownership, which is what Man City have got and Newcastle have got. Are you comfortable with that? Is that just the way football's going?
That's the way it is. I mean, it is going to take, like you just said it yourself, look at how many trophies Man City have won since they've been under Abu Dhabi ownership. And, we're not going to be able to compete unless we're able to have those kinds of players. And we're not going to get those players under Glazers at all. I think it's time. This Qatar model is the best model for us. Thanks for calling in, Nug. Interesting. We had Barry before saying he'd prefer a Sir Jim Ratcliffe option. Nug says he'd prefer Qatar. I think there is a split. I think there is going to be a divide in the fan base. Again, I'd love to know what rival fans are thinking. As Manchester United fans, we've criticised the ownership of Man City and Newcastle, and Manchester United could be heading down that road. I do think the get-out clause for that, and it's certainly one I would use, is that I don't like the ownership model of Newcastle. I don't like the ownership model of Man City because I think it is a bit of a cheat code. I play a lot of FIFA and sometimes you can put a code in and you get an extra 200 million. That's my issue with it. It's just so much wealth compared to everybody else. But when you watch Man City continually winning Premier Leagues and they're doing it off that wealth, you sort of go, well, should we carry on doing it the way where we don't win anything? Or should we just copy them and do that? It's not our fault football's gone that way. It's not our fault that football's gone greedy. And it's also very important to remember, as fans, we'll have to just take whatever happens anyway. We've got no say in this at all. We might be able to protest about a Super League or the Glazers, but ultimately, the Glazers will decide who we get sold to, and we'll probably just have to get on with it, won't we? So maybe we're getting stressed and divided about something we'll have absolutely no say in. No Man's Man United fan next. What do you want to say on this matter, No Man?
Hello, Mark. Pleasure to speak to you, mate. Been following you for a long time, and it's an honour to speak to you, mate. Look, I just want to talk about this Qatar thing, right? You've got. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but to be honest with you, as a Manchester United fan, I'm going to put Manchester United first, and there's nothing better than the Qatari ownership, because the fact of the matter is, the last 10 years, I mean, we've seen where the club's gone. I was a season ticket holder for about 4 seasons, and regretfully, last season I ended up giving it up. Why? Because I felt that it's not my club anymore. It just literally became a limited company, and all I felt as I'm just funding and bankrolling the Glazers' money. And what I feel now is that finally, with these Qataris coming in and the money that they're going to put in, they're not even going to put their own money in, Mark. You know how much we generate. Even though despite the last 10 years and how badly we spent the 1 billion, the Glazers have taken out that same money as well. I used to sit in some games where it was raining and the seats used to leak, Mark. And that had been going on for about 7-8 seasons. The people around used to tell me that I'd been sitting there for much longer than I had. And that's the state of the club. It's completely rotten. Look, we had Ronaldo, our greatest hero, right, Mark? And we turned him to a villain. And why? He was airing all the truths. You know, the state of Carrington, the state of the club, and no one can do nothing about it. The fans suffer, but all of a sudden, when we've got some ownership that they're not going to, all they're going to do is they're going to reinvest Man United's money back into Man United. We're not going to expect, okay, they might put some money in initially, but Man United is a self-sufficient business. We don't need any investors. We just need to let whatever we generate to be put back into the club so we can be what we should be.
Exactly. And I tell you what, thanks for calling in, Noman. There's a really great point to be made here. No matter who takes over Manchester United, if they did have an influx of £2 or £3 billion, wherever it's coming from, it's only what we're owed. Remember, the Glazers bought Manchester United 17 years ago on debt. For the last 17 years, we've been paying interest and repayments on that debt. For the last 17 years, they've been taking tens of millions of pounds out each year on dividends. It probably totals somewhere between £1.5 and £2 billion that the Glazers have cost Manchester United just from their ownership. So if a new owner comes in and says there's £2 billion, it's only the money that the Glazers took off us anyway. So it swings and roundabouts, but Man United need big investment. We need a new stadium. And I know everyone always wants money to be spent on the squad, and that should be given as a given. But actually, on a serious level, forgetting buying a load of players, Manchester United need a new stadium. And I don't mean knocking Old Trafford down. I mean, it like Noman says there, Old Trafford needs renovation. It needs a lot of money, and we need a lot of money spending on infrastructure. We need the best of the best. And I'm not ashamed or afraid to say that whoever takes over Manchester United, it needs a lot of money spending on it. It does, definitely. You're listening to the Mark Goldbridge Show on talkSPORT.